Good morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to you. This is the Sabbath of Parsha Devarim. This is the Sabbath right before Tisha B'Av. For those of you, we'll maybe talk about what that means. For those of you who don't know what that means, but some of you already know what that means. This is a very special time. It's very much of an honor for me to be here to speak about these momentous, heavy, weighty kingdom things, to speak in joy about the beauty of our King and his ways and his words, to coordinate, hopefully, help you see the coordination between his beautiful words that he speaks and his downloads of revelation and the times and the seasons in which we live. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody across the world. Shabbat Shalom to all those here in the Biblical Lifestyle Center who've joined us today. We thank you for tuning in. If you're joining by Facebook or later by YouTube, we bless you. We thank you for the privilege of letting us come into your homes or your cars or your computers. And we do not take that lightly. Take it very seriously that this is your entrustment to us of the chance to speak the oracles of the Creator of the universe in your ears. So tonight, or today, we pick up a new book, a new Sefer of Torah. We change seasons. At the end, the very last verse of Sefer Bamidbar, the book of Numbers as it's called, we read a verse. It was chapter 36, verse 13. And this verse that we read sort of set the stage, looking back toward everything that we'd been reading, and sort of giving us a hint that something was about to change. There's a change about to come. I think the phraseology I used was sort of a familiar thing from the 60s. Get ready. There's a change coming. And that change is about to take place. The verse we read last week at the end of Parsha Maseh, at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, was Ele hamitzvot hamishpatim asher ziva Adonai biyad Moshe. It's the Hebrew for, and these are the instructions and decrees, some would call it commandments and judgments, that the Holy One gave into Moshe's hand for Bnei Israel on Moab's plain or plateau opposite Jericho. So we have this conclusion of Sefer Bamidbar, the fourth book of Torah, that sort of sums up so much of what has happened. And it's the verses telling us that the things that we have just read, are the mitzvot and the mishpatim. They are the instructions for how to live a well-lived life, and the decrees, the specifications of the Holy One as to what is good and proper and effective for life and for dealing with controversies and difficult situations in the world. And these were given to Moshe by the Holy One on the plain of Moab, crossing the eastern side of the Jordan Rift Valley, overlooking Jericho, with the contemplation that soon, very soon, we were going to step down into the Jordan Rift Valley, across the Jordan River, enter into the land of our destiny, our promise, the beachhead of the kingdom of heaven upon the earth, from which the kingdom is to be launched, that place. We were about to enter that place, and if you've ever stood on a construction site before any of the groundwork was done, the trees are still there, the bushes, the ground is still unlevel. Nothing looks like it's been unused or untouched for years. And you know in your mind there's a blueprint. There is a beautiful image that's been drawn that you know is going to be built in that spot. But you look at the land and it's, look, how will this be there? What is the protocol? What are the processes for bringing this beautiful architectural drawing, this beautiful thing into the world in this location? Well, that's the atmosphere which he left us last week. And that was then, and this is now. And beloved, it is time to move on, to step forward. We're going to enter a new realm. Last week I said, people get ready because there's a change coming. Well, here we are. The time for the change of which I spoke is upon us. So gird up your loins, buckle your seat belts, hold on to your hats, and kick it into high gear, because the final cumulative leg of the race that we've been running is going to be one wild, exhilarating ride. This book of Torah is unlike the other books of Torah. This book of Torah carries with it some power, some level of kedusha, of holiness, of energy from heaven, that even the others, as wonderful as they are and as inspired as they are, cannot touch. This book is the masterpiece of the Torah. And that's a strange thing to say. We'll talk about it. We're learning, and we're going to learn in this next book, that every challenge that we encountered in the wilderness, because that's what's over, is the wilderness wandering. Your wilderness wandering is at an end. Your destiny is waiting for you. And what you will learn is that everything that you encountered in your wilderness, every situation that made you want to cry, or made you want to quit, or made you want to spit, or made you want to shout, or made you want to fight, every one of those challenges that you encountered, every one of those things that you faced in the wilderness was strategically choreographed and designed and allowed to take place exactly as and to the level it was designed, because it was trying to prepare you, to train you for what is about to happen, for building this great structure of the kingdom upon that wild and untamed land that we are about to enter. And so it happens every year. Every part of the challenges that we have just faced, and some of them are personal, and we've had setbacks, and we've had failures in our personal life. We've had crises in health. We've had crises in finances. We've had crises, and others are communal or family, and others are national. And I've been in contact with so many people. Everyone sees what's happening in Cuba. Everyone hopefully sees what's happening in South Africa, especially in the KwaZulu-Natal region of South Africa. Everybody remembers what happened at this time last year in the cities of America, and we're not over it yet. And everyone knows that there are these crises and these challenges that take place, and many get all caught up in the emotion of it. Many get caught up in the rights and the wrongs and the morals and the immorals and who's to blame of it. And the Holy One says all that was divinely allowed and choreographed for you to grow up, for you to overcome, for you to get over all that fleshly, pseudo-intellectual stuff of your opinions and your ideas, and to come in line with the plan of the kingdom of heaven, to build the kingdom of heaven in real time on this earth. So the things that we have just experienced, even recently, the things of the earth that frighten you or tick you off or agitate you in any way, intimidate you, these things are designed to cause us to bond closer to our Creator, to come into union with Him, to come under His feathers, to come under His protection, to come under His covenant love, to come into His plan, because that's the only safe place. There is no safe place in government. There is no safe place in institutional living. There is no safe place. The safe place is only found under the shadow of His glorious, majestic wings. But in and under that shadow and with those wings, there is hope in all situations. There is strength coming into you constantly, because you are connected to a life force that gives you wisdom and clarity and understanding of the things that you face while your flesh is screaming all the time. So to make you bond with your Creator, He's allowed these things to take place, and to enable you to see His beautiful vision. If you don't understand what's wrong with the world, if you don't understand what's wrong with yourself, if you don't understand what's wrong with the people, the humanity, if you don't understand what's wrong with creation and how it's suffering and groaning under the burden of the things that this earth contains, if you don't understand that, you will not have a vision for what He intends to do, for how He intends to redeem, for how He intends to restore, for how his heart is to bring forth the thing that he planned from the beginning. The beauty of Eden, the wonder of Adam, the first Adam before the fall, to restore humanity, to restore creation to the Edenic state. Do you have a vision for that? Or are you just stuck in fighting with all the things you don't like about this world? All the negativity. That's our challenge. So where we have been throughout the book of Numbers, before that the book of Leviticus, through that the book of Exodus, and before that the book of Genesis, and in our individual lives, where we have been is only preparation for where we are going. Where we have failed is only preparation for when we succeed. Where we have hurt and been wounded and wounded others in our hurt is only preparation for receiving healing and then being able to give healing wherever we go. The shofar has sounded for this month. We have entered the month of Av, the 5th month of the biblical year. Just as there is the year is sort of divided into evening and morning, like the first days of creation. The first 6 months are evening, and the second 6 months are morning, as we were both. And so shofar sounded for the second 6 months. Before the 7th day, as you know, there is the 6th day, and the 6th day is the day of preparation. So we're in the 5th month, and beginning at the next new moon, we'll enter that time of preparation, the 6th month. The shofar sounded. It is time to begin our ascent of the next flight of stairs. You know, it's Yaakov's ladder. It's the ladder, the staircase to heaven. Keep going. Keep moving. Don't quit in your ascent. You're seeking. You're moving into the heavenly realms, the beauty realm of God. It's our time to start the next flight of ascent. The creator of the universe has planned a new world order. It's not the new world order that you hear about on television or on the news. It's not the new world order planned by men or by organizations or governments or movements. The new world order that the creator of the universe has in mind is a restoration of creation. So that is what he's calling forth. And he calls it forth from us, and we have a role to play. Matter of fact, we have the most significant role on earth. He is the guider, the director. He is the empowerer, and he will move all things. But we are the ones who must step in and do it. It's kind of like whenever the architect draws a drawing, he requires the builders to come in and build it. We are the builders. We learned our building trades under Pharaoh, under the oppression of the world. He will take what we have learned, multiply it by 1,000 times, and we will build something much more beautiful than Pharaoh ever dreamed of. Each year, as we look past the 9th of Av, we look into the 7th month, we look into the month of Rosh Hashanah, of Yom Kippur, the day we rehearse our death, and are revitalized and resurrected to live a new life again. On this day, and then we look past the month of Sukkot, the season of Sukkot. So in order to prepare ourselves for that, we immerse ourselves in this beautiful book called Devarim, or Deuteronomy, as it's known in the Western world. This is what empowers us. This is what drives us. This is what brings us where we're capable of having something meaningful take place on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur, and on the Feast of Sukkot. This is to free our souls from the negativity of our flesh, from the negativity of our pseudo-intellect, the things that we think and we want to believe are right in our own eyes, the things that we feel very strongly in our earthly emotions and our earth-bound emotions. These are the things we're to be freed of so that we can be ready to participate in the grand plan. The final section of the scroll is ready to be unveiled. So the question that we should all be asking is, oh my, what words of revelation, what new visions, what new energy, what new opening fields and pastures, and what new opportunities is he about to open for us? What new levels of wisdom are we going to be called to walk in? What new levels of compassion we'll be able to feel, we'll be empowered to feel, to get over the deadness or the numbness that we have endured or at least embraced because we have been hurt or wounded or scarred by this or that or someone else? What levels of compassion could we walk in? What levels of energy and divine power and strength could we release upon the earth? What order and structure could we bring into the broken places of this earth and the broken people of this earth if we just absorb the energy of this book? What soul-stirring discoveries in the treasure chest of Deuteronomy or Devarim will we find? What challenges will we face? What opportunities will we get? What awaits us on this leg of the journey? What nuggets of revelation has he laid out for us to find this year that we've never seen before? What phases, what stages of revelation that we have seen before is he willing to open up and let us see new dimensions of? How will these next few weeks of finishing the course change our worldview? How should they change our worldview? How will they change our perspective on life? How should they change our perspective on life? How should they change our relationship with our bridegroom king and his Mashiach, his Messiah? And how should they impact our participation in his grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household, family by family, nation by nation, and for the restoration of his creation as an ecosystem, geographical coordinate by geographical coordinate, village by village, farm by farm, valley by valley, mountain by mountain, nation by nation? How will these things be impacted? How will our minds be renewed? How will our hearts be repaired? How will our lives be empowered? The Hebrews have always called this Sefer Devarim. Well, there was a time they called it Mishneh Torah. But mostly it's been called Sefer Devarim. It is the book of Torah on which we're about to embark, and it is to help us conclude another year of man. You know, there are two new years. There's actually several, but there's two main new years in the biblical mindset. One is the new year of man, and that is what begins at Rosh Hashanah, or in the fall of the year. That was the anniversary of creation. And so mankind, without Mashiach, without the Abrahamic covenant, without a Holy One, man lives on the earth according to the schedule of the year. The year of man begins in the fall, goes to the fall, begins at Rosh Hashanah, ends at the day before Rosh Hashanah. That's that year. But we have another year because there's something superimposed over that, and that's the year of the covenant, the year of the kingdom. And the year of the kingdom begins in the spring, and these are just mirror images of one another as they flow. So this is about to conclude the year of man. And how will we conclude it? How will we wrap up this year? The book of Sefer Devarim is comparable in my mind in relationship to the rest of the Torah. There's 4 books that lead to this, and then this is the 5th book. I like to compare it to the difference between the accounts of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John that are often called the gospel accounts to the book of Revelation. This is different. This has got different vocabulary. This has a different feel. This has a different power, an immunah to it. This has a different kedusha to it. This is like Revelation. It's a whole different story. Same author of one of the Gospels, but yet, what a stunning difference in approach. Well, this is what the Sefer Devarim, Deuteronomy, should be to us. Another way I like to think about it, and I encourage you to think about it, is that the first four books of Torah, known in the Western world as Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers, are the 4 corners of the garment. They're the 4 corners, the tzitzit, the tassels, the fringes on the corners of our garment. These are the different levels at which we interact with the world at different seasons as we move in different ways. These are the 4 corners books. But you know about the fringes. If you know about the fringes, there's something besides the four corners, the four tassels. There's the blue thread. And this, Sefer Devarim and the book of Revelation, are both books of the blue thread. This is the book that sets it apart, that pulls it together, that speaks the powerful messages of a consolidated effort, that plan, that put the blueprint into focus, into motion. So the four corner books supply the tassels, but the book of Devarim, the book of Revelation, both provide the blue thread. So this is the blue thread level of Torah. With the season of wilderness testing behind us, and the kingdom era, which is what I would call what Yeshua was talking about when he said, may your kingdom come and may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, that looming before us. Do you understand where you stand? You stand on this precipice right now. Behind you is the wilderness. Behind you are the pain, the troubles, the difficulties, the challenges, the angry words that were passed back and forth, the angry attitudes, the bad attitudes of people, the harshness of the conditions. That lies behind you, but lying before you is, may your kingdom come, may your will be done on earth as it is in the kingdom era lies before you. Every year we face this precipice. And so this looms before us brightly. It is time for a different kind of revelation download. That's the blue thread. That's why we get the blue thread now. The blue thread revelation stream comes now because we need to be ready to step into the next level. So it starts out, Ele hadevarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever ha'yarden. Ele hadevarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever ha'yarden. These are the devarim. The Devarim, the plural of Debar, that Moshe spoke, he debarred, it's the same word, to all Israel, El Kol Yisrael, to all Israel in connection with the crossing of the Jordan, Be'ever HaYarden. This, as we get ready to cross, as we get ready to go forward and step into our next level of sphere of responsibility. As we step into this, these are the Devarim that he gives us to take with us, to empower us, to guide us. But wait a minute. You heard what I read at the beginning with number 36:13. Just last week, just at the end of last week, we were reading, and these are the mitzvot and the mishpatim that the Holy One, that Moshe spoke to Bnei Israel. And this is different. This does not refer to mitzvot or commandments or instructions for life. This does not relate to judgments or decrees of righteous living. This is something different. This is devarim. So he says Ele ha-devarim as opposed to Ele ha-mitzvot. And so we, after 80 long years, we have something happening in Moshe. Because if you will remember with me, you kind of have to read a little bit in Hebrew or at least be able to listen to some Hebrew before you understand this. Back when Moshe was at the burning bush at Horeb, 80 years ago, back at that stage, the Holy One laid out this vision for his life through the sound of a burning bush, the voice coming from a burning bush. And he laid out all these things that he wanted Moshe to do and say. And Moshe kept coming up with different reasons why that couldn't happen and shouldn't happen and didn't need to happen because he didn't need to be a part of it. Moshe was the one who was going to be speaking the Devarim. And he says at that particular stage, Adonai, he's like an outcry, Holy One, Lo ish Devarim. Now you don't see that in English. You say, I'm not a man of words. But not in Hebrew. In Hebrew it says, Lo, no, not. Ish Devarim. I am a man of words, a man of Devarim. I'm not. Well, the Holy One knew he was. You know, as a matter of fact, when Yocheved looked at the child that she had given birth to under this decree that the Pharaoh had issued, that all the children would be thrown into the Nile and drown, the Hebrew boys, she looked at this child and it says he was a goodly child. What was goodly about him? What can a mother see? What can a mother see? If you think of what a mother can see in that child, just think what the Father, what the Holy One saw in him. The Holy One saw a man of Devarim, an Ish Devarim. The Holy One saw an Ish Devarim. And when he looks at you, he sees an Ish Devarim too. And we cry out, no, lo Ish Devarim. I'm not a man who why? I could maybe repeat your mitzvot. I could tell people what your mitzvot say. I could tell people what your judgments are. But I have to rid myself of myself to be an Ish Devarim. I have to rid myself of my opinions to be an Ish Devarim. I have to speak only your words and only your plan and only your heart and only your tone and only your rhythm to be an Ish Devarim. Oh, no, lo Ish Devarim. He says, lo Ish Devarim, and he said, ki kevad peh u kevad lashon anoki. This is from Exodus chapter 3. Ki kevad peh, I got a heavy mouth. U kevad lashon anoki, and I got a heavy tongue. Now, I know in English you're used to probably reading it as something else. That Hebrew, it kavod. I have a kavod tongue. I have a kavod mouth. What does it mean? It means I'm angry. It means I can't let go of my feelings. It means when things come out of me, it doesn't have the sweetness of your sound. It doesn't mean I stutter. It means I don't stutter. I don't even hesitate. I just spew my opinion, and I spew my feelings, and I spew my attitude all over everybody. Kivod peh. Kivod lashon. And it took 80 years. 80 years for Moshe to come to the point where he can say, Ish Devarim. Finally, I get it. You didn't design me to spew my opinion. You didn't design me to state what I feel and what I think. You didn't call me. I wasn't a goodly child because I was smart and I had good opinions and I was judgmentally right. I was morally correct. You called me because my mouth was made to put your words out there at your tone, in your sequence, in your rhythm, and release it into the earth. That Ish Devarim. Well, so what has happened to Moshe over these 80 years? Because it really took a while. As a matter of fact, his most recent experience in Numbers wasn't all good. You remember the incident at where the water, he was supposed to speak to the rock? Ish Devarim. Well, he didn't want to be an Ish Devarim. He wanted to scream and yell at everybody and project his anger into the rock. And he, even then he struggled. He kept getting better and better and better. The more he knew the Holy One, the more he walked with the Holy One, he'd do better and better and better, but then he would still have his flesh operate, act up. He'd still have his pseudo-intellect get involved, and his sense of morality and what's better and what's right and who's to blame for everything would pop up and spew off, and then he would get over it. But now he's reached the last 36 days of his life. Everything we'll read in Sefer Devarim took place within a period of 36 days. The last 5 weeks and 1 day of the life of Moshe Rabbeinu, our rabbi. And this 36 days, he is going to become, finally, the Ish Devarim that the Holy One called him to be, that his mother envisioned and his father must have envisioned him to be. So, if after 80 years, a whole lot of heavy tongue and heavy mouth episodes, Moshe has finally become that Ish Devarim. I go through this because, and I don't mean to in any way insult you or myself, but most of us, no matter how far we have walked with the Holy One up to today, are lo Ish Devarim. We're still spewing. we're still repeating phrases. We're still just telling how we feel about stuff. We're reacting in the flesh. And then we're giving voice to it, and we're giving behavior to it. Most of us are still lo ish devarim. But let me just say this. The illustration of the life of Moshe is to say to you, it doesn't have to end that way. There is yet a season when you can step into the fullness of who you were created to be, but it's going to require you to let go of some stuff you thought was very precious. Some opinions, some attitudes, some belief systems, some structures, some cultural, some ethnic, some other kinds of opinions that you have developed, and to solely rely upon heaven for your inspiration on earth as it is in heaven. May His will be done. Well, this is the highest form of that which the people have asked for at Sinai. I want to just remind you that back in chapter 20 of Exodus, the great theophany took place. The Holy One spoke, thunder, the shofar blew, the voice and the trembling took place within the people, and they shuddered and they were fearful. He spoke all the 10 words. He spoke 10 Deut, same word, different gender. Devarim and Deut are the same word, just in different gender format. So the 10 words that the Holy One spoke at Mount Sinai were spoken in the voice of the Holy One, and the thunder and the lightning and the noise. And all of that power that was regenerated by these Deut, by the Devarim of the Holy One, in that the people trembled and they shook and they said, no. And what they said seemed reasonable at the time. If they had known Moshe, it would not be so reasonable. If they'd known the condition of man, the condition of all men, they would not have made this sound so reasonable, but they were prophesying of a future event that we're about to get to the last 36 days of his life. And they said, now all the people witnessed the thunderings and the lightning flashes and the sound of the shofar and the mountains smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and they stood afar off. And then they said to Moshe, Dabar atah. Now in English you just said, you speak. But in Hebrew, it's not emor. It's not the kind of ordinary language we have conversations. It is dabar atah. Speak devarim. Dabar atah with us, and we will shema, but let not God dabar. Let Him not dabar with us, lest we die. And so the people have this misunderstanding of timing and sequence, misunderstanding of how this all works and how long it's going to take for it to get there. But what they say is, we want a man who we can see, who we can walk with and talk with, that will actually dabar the words of the Creator of the universe in our midst. That's pretty powerful. Could a human being let go of all of the self stuff, self-deny, self-efface, let in humility and in absolute love for and connection with the Holy One, the Creator of the universe? Could a person with human flesh open his mouth and not his own thoughts come out? Could a person and could it instead come forth with the divine energy to set things in order and cause things to happen that the Creator of the universe himself? Could a human being do what the Holy One did in Genesis 1 and speak and make things happen upon the earth? Well, that's what they were asking for, but they didn't know what they were asking for. They didn't know who they were asking for it to happen. But here at the end of his life, the last 36 days, this is happening. The first 4 books are basically Moshe's daily journal, and they're very valuable. I wouldn't trade anything for the first 4 books, the daily journal. But this is like the whole kaleidoscope picture drawn together with the perspective of heaven on everything he just spoke. And so we are about to leave the Moses' daily journal approach to Revelation and enter what I call the Devarim portal. I love this place. I hope you're hungry for this place. A place where you do not have to listen to just other people reciting their opinions all the time. There are the doctrines, and there are theologies, and there are theological arguments. You don't have to just sit there and read them or listen to people banter about them or go on and on and on. about them, but instead you're in this Devarim portal where the actual words spoken by the creator of the universe and the visions that he has for you are actually communicating themselves deep into your spirit. And you are not seeing them through the eyes of fallen men, but you're seeing them through the eyes of the Mashiach, perfect man. The Devarim portal is the realm where men yield their tongues and their pens to the Holy One's exclusive use. You stop for a second. If you learned anything from the trials and challenges of the book of Bamidbar, Numbers, you should have learned the thing I talked about last week, that between your nose and your chin lies a very dangerous instrumentality. The instrumentality that is more damaging, more dangerous than a sword. Over the course of a generation, of a family, of a bloodline, more damage is done with this orifice between the nose and the chin than with swords or with fists or with other weapons. Because you see, this is the weapon by which most of us spew the negativity that is in us. Now, what if we are able to hold our tongues and our pens, hold our keyboard strokes, and instead of speaking that which comes out of our flesh and our anger and our opinions and our attitudes and our pseudo-intellect, we just spoke the words, the Devarim of the Holy One. If we just reproduced his words. Wow. Well, if we gave our tongue and our mouth only to his use, exclusively, and then began to speak and write and deliver nothing but the true tone oracles of the creator of the universe. No more flesh-driven emotional reactions. No more high-sounding pseudo-intellectual abstractions. No more ideological, philosophical, religious, or political rants. No more ethnic, racial, national, cultural, or class biases or slogans based upon those biases. No more recycled vocabulary. No more worn-out cliches. No more hype. No more hyperbole. No more hypocrisy. You say, well, I'm lowish Devarim. I hope you realize how lowish Devarim we all start out in life. And it is a process of surrendering to the Holy One and to his Messiah's training and teaching and discipleship that we learn how to become Ish Devarim. And that is our goal, and we are reaching that stage of life. We're called to it again. Through a lifetime of union with and discipleship under the Messiah. Through a lifetime of union with and discipleship under the Messiah. I'm going to repeat that one more time because I think we get caught up in all sorts of theology and we list this as the most important thing. Through a lifetime of union with and discipleship under the Messiah. In the course of which we learn his humble and gentle and his compassionate and his self-denying attitudes and his ways. May we all become faithful and true. May we all become portals of Devarim like Moshe. May we, like Moshe in his final 36 days on earth, become so filled to the brim with Kedusha energy, the things of the holiness of God that bring the energy of heaven to earth, that we make no provision for the flesh anymore. 1 Corinthians, quit making provision for the flesh. Quit making provision for your emotional reaction to stuff going on around you. Quit making room for that. Quit making allowances for it. Quit it. Just quit. That we make no provision for the flesh or for the indulging of its lust. Well, the theme and message, what is then this book going to be about? If it's going to be that deep, it's going to be that rich, if it's going to be the actual Moshe parodying the Devarim that are come from heaven, what will be the theme? I've got a short version and I've got a long version. The short version is this. And please listen. Out of your ashes let beauty arise. Out of your Babylon and out of your Egypt, let beauty arise. You are still capable of doing this. May you be as Sarah and as Rivka and as Rachel and as Leah. And may the Holy One make you as like Manasseh and Ephraim. Out of your ashes, let beauty arise. This is the general, soft, quick message of Sefer Devarim. Here's the longer version. Be patient with me now. In light of what the Holy One has done for you, in light of what the Holy One has done for you, hope you're all trembling and shaking your heads at this particular stage. In light of the great mercies that have been shown to you by the Holy One, and the workings that He has done, the miracles He has wrought in your life to get you to where you are right now, in light of what the Holy One has done for you, your reasonable act of service is to co-labor with Him in the grand project of building and stewarding and operating on earth a kingdom of heaven-scented society. And to make sure it comes to earth in tangible form, in real time, in visible, manifest ways. You and your families and your households and your bloodlines working together without surrendering to anger and disagreements and sectarianism are to actually become the tabernacle, the Mishkan. This is your job. This is your mission, should you choose to accept it. You, but not you alone. You and your family members and your household and your bloodline and your neighbors and those of you all who are in covenant, joining together without the jealousy and the envy and the strife and the arguments over all the things that the rest of the world argues about, are to become the tabernacle. And all the things that you see in the tabernacle, saw in the tabernacle built on the floor of the desert there at Sinai, are to be reproduced in your lives, in your communal life, in your personal lives. And this is to be the place, you as the community, are to be the place where the God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov abides and resides and graciously receives visitors and those who make supplications, and displays His majesty and His goodness and His mercy and His judgment, and implements His grand plan for mankind as a species and for creation as an ecosystem. You are to become that place. You are to become portals of Devarim. You are to become more than what you think you are. You are to become more than a religious people, more than ethnic people, more than you are to rise above that and become these things. Now, how can we do that? How can we rise to that level? The key is found in the word itself, Devarim. I was looking outside my window this morning, talking to the Holy One for a while, and as I'm doing so, my beautiful wife has put buckets of vegetables, plants outside my window. So as I look out the window, the first thing I see are the flowering squash plants. And the squash blossoms are out there, and they're yellow and they're beautiful and all that stuff. And I'm looking at that, and all of a sudden here comes this creature flying through the air. It's a bee. And this bee comes, and it goes down inside the top blossom, the squash blossom, and it does whatever it does down there. And I begin to hear, just right through the window, because I'm right next to the window, I'm hearing this little buzzing sound. And this buzzing sound, and he takes what's in this squash blossom, and he takes it to a nearby tree, where there are a bunch of other bees doing the same thing in different squash blossoms and different kinds of blossoms. And they're putting hexagonal shapes in order and waxing the lines between the hexagonal shapes, and you're making a hive. They're making a hive fit for a royal bee to live, fit for the king, fit for the queen in this situation, the queen of the beehive. I'm sitting there watching this and I'm saying, that's how you do it. You become Devarim, because what is a bee? Bee is in Hebrew, Devar. Plural of Devar, Devarim would be bees. The whole idea is it pictures what a bee is, because what a bee is what a bee does. What does a bee do? The word Devar comes from a Hebrew word, a verb, which means to set things in order to make them more efficient. It's an organizational word. It's a part of a creative process. The idea is that at some place you have to get all your tools together and all your materials together. You have to line them up, and you have to begin to put them in the proper place. Everything in its proper place. That's what Devarim do. And when you do that, there creates this buzz, this energy, this power begins to be generated. And one thing you do when you hear a bee buzzing, there are basically two messages I take from that. The first message is there's honey being made. Something really good is about to be released upon the earth. The second message I hear is, but there's a sting attached to that bee. Be a little careful how you interact with it and treat it with respect and with honor, and don't go in there and just try to take things. Understand you need to coexist with this bee. Well, so what does that mean about the words of the Holy One? The Holy One words are like bees, and they go and they buzz, and they have a buzz, and they set the world around them in with their energy. They call the world to attention. There's something good happening. But there's a sting attached to it if you don't treat it respectfully. If you don't honor the process, if you don't engage yourself. Well, that's what Devarim are. The Holy One does not ask for us to do all these things. He says, my Devar will make this happen. I am building this hive. I am building this kingdom of heaven-centered society. I am doing these things. I am just calling you to be my little bees that go from place to place and don't fight with the process and don't engender the sting. The name is a pluralized form of bees. And words is usually what it's translated to in English. But it's more than words. Devarim are much more than words. Devarim are what produces the nectar, what produces the honey. Devarim are an energy that go with it. All right. Each individual Devar, each individual word that the Holy One would speak, or you have Moshe speak in this case, is full of life, individually, uniquely. But when you put them together and string them together in the proper sequence and order, they become atmosphere shifting and world changing. They change the status quo. They remove levels of what you thought were impossibility, impracticability. Whenever you put together the strings of these Devarim, in their proper place, in their proper order, with a proper level of respect and the proper level of engagement, then what you see is you don't make this stuff happen. The creator of the universe uses you in your sphere of influence to help make this thing happen, come to pass. Devarim are not linear. They are energy that goes out in a circular fashion. They send out waves of energy. Together as a hive unit, they do not set a creative rules, create a set of rules that we are to obey. What they do is they form a vibrant ecosystem. The idea is not you have a bunch of rules to fulfill. The idea is you live in a hive of ecosystem with energy flowing through it and process having taken place in it. A vibrant ecosystem of life, of health, and of peace that we are to inhabit, and the scent and the flavor of which we are to carry into every sphere of influence the Holy One assigns us to. We are to inhabit them like bees inhabit a hive, and yet we are to go forth like bees go forth from their hive to accomplish what they're supposed to accomplish. It is in the context of the ecosystem that we most thrive and delight. So the Devarim are words of impartation, the Devarim of the Holy One, the Devarim of Moshe, the Devarim we're going to read, the Devarim we should be speaking, are words of impartation, of empowerment, of activation. This is the Master's program of the kingdom of heaven. When Yeshua spoke of the kingdom of heaven, and he spoke of it a lot, that was his favorite theme. He wasn't speaking of something different than what Moshe is talking about in his Devarim. His source is the same. But why is he doing this now? Why is he wanting to talk to us now at this particular stage of the year of man, and of the year of the covenant? Why is he doing it this time and at this season? Why is he introducing this new level of revelation flow, Devarim, as opposed to the four corners? Well, all revelation downloads that the Holy One gives to us are strategically timed kingdom briefings. We don't just luck upon something. We'll just happen upon something. When it's wisdom, when it's a devar from heaven, we don't just discover it. Wow, look how good we are at rooting out things and finding stuff. If you see that level of pride active in many people in many different walks. This is not the way it works in the kingdom. We don't just happen on something, or we just don't, by our hard work, discover it. The Holy One reveals it to us strategically because he has something to do for us to do with it. Everything is a strategically timed kingdom briefing for the season we are entering and the challenges we are about to face. It's all part of a building strategy. Our King knows our limits. Do you know your limits? Our King knows our inclination toward sensual distractions. We've all got our serpent that talks to us, and trees that we get enamored with, knowledge of good and evil. He knows how susceptible we are to the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil kind of folly, where we think we know stuff, and we think we're right about everything, and we think other people are just stupid and just don't get it, or are morally inferior to us. He knows all that stuff about us. He knows our faults and our limits. So he doesn't just let us get information about his kingdom any old way. He doesn't introduce matters relative to his grand plan for redemption and restoration into the earth haphazardly. He strategized it, and this book of Devarim at this stage of the year, at this time and season that we are in, is designed every year to bring us to where we need to go next. He takes his role as an ecosystem manager. In Hebrew, they call him Adon Olam, master of the times in the world. He takes his role as ecosystem manager seriously. So he reveals only what we need to know and what we are ready to responsibly steward. So what time and season is it? Why now? Why does he now think we're ready to receive Devarim from Moshe, the instructions about what the kingdom is supposed to look like and the energy that's supposed to bring it to pass in our real world? Well, it's the 8th day of Av in the year 5781, the 8th day of Av, the 5th month. It is called Shabbat Chazon. It means the Sabbath of vision. It comes from the Haftarah of the week, which is Isaiah chapter 1. And it talks about the vision, Chazon Yeshayahu, the vision of Isaiah, regarding Israel and Jerusalem. The vision of Isaiah, of Yeshayahu, regarding, not just in vision in general, the vision regarding what is designed to be upon the earth as the foundation and the root of the kingdom of heaven, regarding Israel and regarding Jerusalem. So this is that season. This is the week. We are at the Shabbat Chazon. This is, for those of you who were heavy metal folks in the 60s and 70s, it's also called Black Sabbath, and it's where Black Sabbath got its name. This is the Black Sabbath of all the Sabbaths, because it's the day before Tisha B'Av. It's the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. Tisha B'Av actually starts tonight at sundown, the 9th of Av. And then tomorrow at sundown, Sunday night at sundown, the 7 weeks of consolation start. And then after in the middle of the 7 weeks of consolation, the moon cycle of Elul, the 6th month of the biblical year, at the halfway point, our annual season of Teshuvah begins Saturday night, August 7th this year, right at the conclusion of Shabbat Re'eh. And then On September 6th, on Monday evening, September 6th, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, the day of breathing, of blowing, of trumpets, as some call it, is forecast to begin at sundown at that time. And then 10 days later, Yom Kippur, September the 15th at sundown, 24 hours in which we rehearse our own death, and we are resurrected from life. We are given the decree of the Holy One and resurrected to another year of life. It's Yom Kippur. And then on September 20th, in the evening, on Monday evening, we will enter the 7 days of Sukkot, and we will be full abreast in another year, going back through the cycle one more time. This is an important season. We stand on the threshold of many things. And this fifth month is called Av. It's a Babylonian, it's actually a Hebrew word. Av means father. Well, here's the secret of Devarim. Devarim must be spoken with the voice of a father. Mitzvot, you can talk about commandments with any old voice you want. You can be the elder brother, or you can be the prodigal. You can be the angry neighbor, or you can be the selfish car salesman. You can be anything you want, but when you talk about Devarim, you must speak with the voice of the Father and the heart of the Father. So we are in the season when we are focusing on the Holy One as our Father. It's actually in Deuteronomy, in the book of Devarim, that Moshe introduces the whole idea that God is our Father, that we are His children. The thing that Yeshua picked up on and called and made the center point of his revelation stream. He took it from Moshe. Moshe found in the book of Devarim, he reveals that we are children to the Father, and He is our Father. So this month of Av is the month when we reconnect with our Father. It's our prodigal son returning home. It's our fatherness. And at the beginning, sometimes your father has to discipline you. If he loves you, he disciplines you. So the first 9 days, till the Tisha B'Av, till the 9th of Av, we have this, we're under this discipline. It's not a hateful discipline. He's not raging at us. He is knowing what needs to happen. We need to let go of the things we're holding on to. So we have these first 9 days, which we have one more before it happens, the 9th day of Av. And that's when the Father is being the disciplinarian Father. Oh, but beginning the day after the 9th, on the 10th day of Av, just around the corner, this month converts into Menachem Av. Menachem Av is the comfort, the consolation, the embrace, the loving embrace and restorative touch of the Father. So this is where we are. We're at this stage when we need to come to our Father and let Him discipline us. But once He has disciplined us, and once the discipline has been completed and the decree has been spoken, He will gather us to Him like a father gathers his child and embraces and encourages and inspires. Menachem Av. Av contains the low point on the calendar, the 9th. The day of the sin of the spies, which happened on that day. Also the day of the destruction of the first and the second temples. Both temples were destroyed on this day in different years. And many other tragedies occurred. Aaron died. Decrees were issued by foreign kings, rulers in England, that all Jews had to be forcibly removed from the land. In France, the same day, different year. In Spain, 1492, the same day, different years. The final battle of the Jewish-Roman wars and the Bar Kokhba revolution, when the last bastion to fall was Betar, fell, and all of Judaism surrendered to the Roman Empire and was destroyed and sent out into captivity, into final exile on the 9th of Av in 135 CE, Common Era. This is the day, a dark day. This is a day of extreme discipline. This is a fatherly discipline that sometimes is very hard to swallow and hard to live with. So even though we see that, these things set in place the final exile, our Father in heaven has always been there for us, and He will always be there for us. People who think that somehow or other there has been a forfeiture of the covenant do not understand the Holy Father. They don't understand his ways. They do not understand the Torah. They don't understand the prophets. They don't understand what's being said. Just because a father disciplines you does not mean he rejects you. It means he knows you still have hope, or he wouldn't discipline you. He knows you still have the ability to become an ish devarim, or he would not have disciplined you in the first place. So, what is Shabbat Hazon about? What vision do we need to see before the 9th of Av? Ezekiel chapter 10, one of the most poignant passages in Scripture. Ezekiel saw many visions. This is the vision that shocks me still, that sends reverberating pang through me yet. The Holy One has taken Ezekiel, up by the hair of the head, by his hand. And he has carried him to Jerusalem, and he has showed him the temple in Jerusalem and what's going on in the temple. And then it says in verse 18, then Kavod Adonai, the weight, the glory, the manifest presence of the Holy One, departed. Departed from the threshold of the temple and stood over the cherubim. And then the cherubim lifted up their wings and mounted up from the earth before my eyes. Oh, my heavens, what have we lost? What have we suffered? You say, the temple, who cares about the temple? Sacrifices and blood. No. We don't miss the sacrifices and the blood. We miss the manifest presence of the Holy One. Enthroned on earth, to which anyone can come, to which all men are invited. The house of prayer for all nations, as he says in Jeremiah. Now, this is what we miss. We don't have that anymore. As of this day, the 9th of Av, we have no more of the presence, the manifest presence in that form. The macro version of his presence and his accessibility to humankind is no longer here. What have we lost? What have we suffered? The whole, in Hebrew, it's referred to as Ichabod. Ichabod. Most people call it in English. Ichabod. No glory. No manifestation. No presence. So, how do we recapture? What is the process? What is the protocol for us to recapture his presence to some level, to some degree? Because we can't have it on a macro level because there's no temple. There will be a new temple. There will be a third temple. It will be Mashiach's temple. It will be the temple that Ezekiel sees and envisions and tells us about. That will happen, but it's not happened yet. So in the meantime, how do we bring the heavenly vision of his manifest presence and his willingness to receive visitors and hear supplications and issue wisdom decrees of Devarim? How do we do that? One person, one life, one house, one household, one family, one father and his children, one mother and her kids at a time. We begin to reattach ourselves to that heavenly vision. The vision of Yeshayahu, the vision of Yechezkiel, the vision of Moshe is all the same vision. Build the tabernacle upon the earth. And if you can't build it in its macro form, build it in its micro form. Build it in the micro form in your own life. Make your own life a tabernacle. And make it your family and your neighbors, if you have covenant neighbors, a family that makes them a tabernacle. Whenever the Holy One's kavod are lifted up off the temple and above the earth, and mounted up on the wings of the cherubim, the words that Yeshua spoke could have radiated. Behold, your house is left to you desolate. Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Behold, your house is left to you desolate. For I say to you, you shall see me no more until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Holy One. Well, Moshe has found a way, after 80 years of walking with the Holy One, finally realizing his time on earth is limited and he only has a certain number of times of days to do things, he becomes able to become an Ish Devarim. If it happened to Moshe, it can happen to us. May we all become more than believers, more than visionaries, more than prophets, preachers, teachers, etc. May we become more than writers. May we become more than statesmen. May we become more than patriots. May we become more than scholars, more than shepherds or pastors. May we become more than judges. May we become much more than warriors. May we become far more than avengers. May each of us become true Enoshim Devarim, Ish Devarim. Now the Holy One has got Moshe all fired up. It's his season. He's going to show us the big picture. He's going to detail line upon line. He's going to show us pattern after pattern, sequence after sequence of the freeze frames of what it looks like to have a kingdom of heaven ascended society upon the earth. He's going to show it to us in personal levels. He's going to teach us things of the Devarim of heaven. Shema Yisrael. This is where he's going to find it. Shema Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. This is on an individual micro level. Set these words which I instruct you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them as you sit in your home, as you walk by the way, when you lie down and when you rise up. And bind them as a sign upon your hand, and let it be a symbol before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. What? His Devarim. Be mindful of all these mitzvot and do them, and in this manner you will set yourselves apart to me, your God. Now, this is what he's going to tell us. That's the micro level. Then he's going to say, no, when you go into your cities, when you go into your land, appoint mishpatim, appoint shoftim in all of your gates. Assign people that actually bring the Devarim of the Holy One into play. Wow. The big picture. And then also, you'll have a king. You'll have Levites operative. You will have the priesthood will function. All these things will take place because it will be part of the grand. You will have cities of refuge. You will have cities for the Levites to teach the Torah in. You will have all these. This is the way you're going to build this kingdom of heaven ascended society that focuses upon me on the macro level. But it has to start on the micro level with you tuning your heart. Shema means to tune your heart, and that's be his first major message. Deuteronomy 6:6 is going to say, and these Devarim, which I enjoin you today, are to be on your heart. Are they? Or are they just in your head? Are they part of the nature of who you are? Have you succumbed to make this your energy pod? These are on your heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Deuteronomy 12:28 says, observe and shema all these Devarim that I enjoin you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever when you do what is good and right in the sight of the Holy One your God. If you observe and shema these Devarim, he said it will go well with you. Shalom will be upon you and your household. They have energy, they have power, they have effectual operation. Deuteronomy 32:47 is going to say, and it is not a useless thing, a useless debar for you. Indeed, it is your life, this Torah he's talking about. And by this debar, you will prolong your days in the land that you cross over this Jordan to possess. What are these Devarim for? Because they are to energize and empower us to accomplish that which he has set us upon the earth to do before we die. Before we die, these Devarim are the essential aspect of what we do. So what is the book going to contain? The first thing is going to be a retrospective. If you don't know where you came from, if you don't know your roots, you can't know what your fruit's supposed to be. And so he's going to tell us some stories. You know, the people he talked to, the people he actually began this conversation with, didn't go through any of these things he's going to talk about. They're all a new generation. They were born in the desert. They have never They never had a moment in Egyptian bondage. Not a second. Never felt an Egyptian whip. Never heard Egyptian bark orders to them. Were never slaves. Not once. Not a one. They didn't come through the sea of reeds. They didn't see the waters part. They didn't see the wind, hear the wind blow that night. They didn't sense the fear of having Pharaoh's soldiers. They didn't have that. This was another generation, a new generation. They didn't hear the report of the spies and cower in fear about giants and how hard it was going to be and how impossible it was. And they didn't hear all that. This was a new generation. So Moshe is going to tell that story. He says, this is where you came from. This is what's in you. And if you don't understand, you have this in your blood. You have these same kind of weaknesses, these same kind of issues, but you also have the same level of power in your blood, in your bloodline. You need to know who you are before I tell you what you're going to do. So the first thing is a retrospective look, and particularly focusing on the journey after they left Sinai, because these people didn't pick up, this group didn't pick up until about 38 years later. And also, he's going to tell you about the mission on earth that the Holy One gave us at the beginning. The second thing he's going to do, beginning with chapters 5 through 28, the second great discourse, he's going to remember for us, recite in our ears something that we didn't personally experience, the betrothal ceremony at Sinai, the grand theophany. The people he's talking to didn't go there, weren't there. Not only as children, maybe as young infants. He's going to remind them what took place, how special that was, how we are a nation built upon this foundation of the creator of the universe speaking Devarim, Deut, as they call it, because of the nature of the gender here, into our world. He is going to tell us the most fundamental prerequisites for covenantal life. And he's going to then, in the third discourse, he's going to lay before us the two pathways we have to choose between. And he's going to call us to make a covenant based upon following the Devarim, the instructions of the Holy One, to actually build this kingdom of heaven-centered society upon the earth on a micro and on a macro level. And then there will be the grand conclusion of Torah, and Moshe will have so much more to say that he can't say it with words. He has to sing it in a song. And so we have the Song of Moshe, and then the final blessing when he will bless everybody before he leaves. The deathbed blessing of the man who learned how to speak Devarim. How good is that? How wonderful would that be? And then he will climb the mountain with the Holy One that he loves so much, Mount Nebo, and they will have a last conversation. And according to the text, he will die, and the Holy One, no man, will bury him. And there will not be another prophet that rises like unto Moshe until Mashiach. Well, thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed, hope you've been touched and blessed. You're called to this new season, and this new season is opening up before your eyes. Get the vision of Moshe, the vision of Yeshayahu, Isaiah. Get the vision for the kingdom that Yeshua tried to teach us. And let's move on beyond our personal feelings, our personal attitudes, our sense of what we think is right and wrong and moral and immoral and fair and unfair, and only think and speak and radiate and live and do the words of the Creator of the universe. That's our high calling, and it's high time. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 25 minutes till 12. We'll have our family conversation and discussion of the Torah then.